authors, welcome to the very first Thursday Live. We are going to be going live every Thursday from now on, but today is the first one. And today I'm interviewing somebody who is local or fairly local to where I am. I'm in Vancouver. He's in Victoria. I'm going to interview Bennett R. Coles, and he is the award-winning author of 7 books, having been published by HarperCollins in New York and Titans in London. He also worked as an editor and a publisher in the traditional publishing industry for 10 years. So these days, in addition to writing and ghostwriting, he runs a boutique author services company called Cascadia Author Services. And that's how I know Ben. So I'm one of his blog readers. So I've been reading his blog, and he sends out lots of blogs. And I was really keen on that and interested because it's high value information. He's a regular blogger. He blogs often. And so when I got talking with him, he said, "Oh, did you know I have another blog?" Like, what? You have 2 blogs? So we have to talk about blogging. So he is here today. We are going to talk about blogging. So on top of being his journey as an author, we'll talk about that too. We'll talk about blogging, and we'll talk about Cascadia Author Services. So much to talk about. So here he is. Welcome, Bennett R. Coles. Hi, Bennett. How are you today?
Hey, Melody Ann. It's great to be here.
Good. Awesome. So I wanted to start by talking about your author journey. And just before we dig into the books, there's something really important about your background that plays into what you write. So you can just tell us a little bit about your education, your background, and how you decided to take that and leap into being an author.
Yeah, well, my books are primarily military science fiction, and the big impetus to do that writing came from 2 places. First of all, the sci-fi part came because I was 4 years old when Star Wars was released, and it basically shaped my entire worldview. So, it has to be in space. That's a given.
Yeah.
But the military side,
Awesome.
that comes from I was in the Navy for 15 years, and very often anyone who's a subject matter expert will read fiction or watch fiction and just shake their head at the writers who just don't get how their organization works. And I found that often with the military is like, oh, guys, I mean, it's a great story. I love you guys, but that's not how we do it. So I set out, I wanted to write realistic military science fiction. And so I use that as sort of the impetus for my first trilogy, the Virtues of War trilogy. I tried to take everything I knew about how we operate in the military for real today, and then put that in space in 500 years from now. The second series, I actually changed it up a little bit, because the second series, the Blackwood Virtue series, that's sort of swashbuckling space pirates. And I drew on my degree in naval history to go back to, well, how did they fight battles back in Admiral Nelson's time, sailing ships and all that. And I thought, let's do something different. Let's have some fun. Let's have a little bit of huzzah in the new series. And so I definitely draw on my naval experience for both series to try and bring that realism to it, or at least in the case of swashbuckling space pirates, some consistency. So someone who kind of knows what he's talking about there.
Yes. So there's some historical accuracy in your books, and there's some accuracy around the military and naval in your book, but there's also fantasy and sci-fi. So, I'm going to say not real yet, because as we know, what's not real now doesn't mean it won't be real in however many years, right?
Absolutely. One of the big things in the Virtues of War trilogy is the idea that there's this 4th spatial dimension that the ships can access. And I use that as a substitute for submarines. So these ships can go into what's called the bulk. And I didn't make that up. There was actually a leading scientific theory from a couple of Harvard physicists who had come up with this idea of a 4th spatial dimension, which they called the bulk, and how it explains how the different forces of the universe work together. And I thought, oh, that's brilliant. And what a great name, the bulk. I'm so using that. And so I actually used a cutting edge scientific theory. Now I took it a little further and put spaceships in it and made it like submarines. I did send a copy to Harvard to the professors to see what they thought. Never heard back, but I'm sure they liked it. I'm sure they liked it. I'm sure they thought it was cool. So definitely with sci-fi. Like if you want to go full on space fantasy, you can do that. But
Yeah.
if you want to stay close to what's reality, it's a good idea to do some research into what physics tells us today,
Yeah.
and try to stay as close to that as you can. Break the rules if you have to, but have a good reason for breaking the rules.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's sci-fi
No.
fans are really big on that.
Yeah, no, that's great. So when you jumped into your publishing or your author journey, you went from military to authorship. And so your first book, did you self-publish that at first, or did you pitch an agent, or did you go straight to a publisher? Like, tell us about give us the little bit about how you got into publishing and how that worked for you. This is 10
Yeah,
years ago, is that right? Just to give
that's right.
some people context,
11
10
years ago.
years ago, 11 years
Yeah,
ago. Okay.
yeah. Yeah, very interesting actually. I
Mhm.
did look at traditional publishing, and I sent my, idea, my query letter and synopsis off to agents. And I remember 20 years ago, before email was as popular as it is, you had to actually send things in manually, like actually mail stuff, and you'd have to wait 6 weeks. Well, when in 2009, 2010, I was doing this again, it was all by email. And I'm pretty sure some of those agents have their query responses set up on auto reply. Just no. It came back so fast, a no.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wow, that was fast. So, I mean, I could carry on, but
Yeah.
I was actually advised by my author mentor, who is the
Hmm.
late Mary Rosenblum, who is an award-winning sci-fi author. She said, "Well, there's this new thing, self-publishing, which you might want to try it.
Ah,
It's not like it used to be. It's different now." So
yeah.
I thought, okay, well, I have a business degree. I can, I'm smart. I'm hardworking. I can do this. So actually, Virtues of War, the first book, was self-published originally in 2010.
Hmm.
And oh yeah, I was busy. I was a busy boy
Yeah.
marketing it and going around to all the stores and finding a way to get access to Chapters, our
Yep.
national bookstore.
Yeah.
And it actually did pretty well. It sold a few thousand copies, which for a self-published book is really good. And frankly,
Yeah.
I've learned for a traditionally published book is not bad either. Um, and it fell into the hands of a huge award-winning multi-million copy selling fantasy author named Stephen Erickson. He's the author of the Malazan Book of the Fallen series. And Steve just happened to be in one of the bookstores here in Victoria, saw my book. Oh, that looks good cover. Won an award. Maybe I'll read this. So he read it. He loved it. And then he saw, oh, Ben lives in Victoria. So he actually Facebooked me out of the blue and said, "Hey, I loved your book. I see we live in the same city. Do you want to get together for a cup of coffee?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I got time for Stephen Erickson." So yeah, so Steve and I met, and I signed his copy of my book, and we just got chatting, and we had a really nice chat. And then he asked me, "Who's your agent?" And I said, "Well, because you actually like my book, I'm willing to tell you this." Because back then, self-publishing was still kind of a dirty word.
Oh, yes.
Uh,
Okay.
and I explained I'd self-published it, and he was astonished that I had done that. And so he said, "Well, do you want to meet my agent?" And I was like, whatever. He's got time. So anyway, so he introduced me to his agent, now my agent, and
Amazing.
so Virtues of War was picked up and became a 3-book series with Titan Books of London, thanks to Howard, our agent in New York.
Amazing.
And so I started in self-publishing, and then
Yeah.
the book did well enough that it got the right attention and got picked up for a traditional deal. So
Yeah.
Virtues was republished in 2015 as a traditional book, and then Ghosts of War and March of War followed along behind it. And so
Yeah.
so I've actually done both. I started in self-publishing, kind of on a whim, and it worked out. And so then I moved over to traditional publishing, and that's where I've been ever since.
That's amazing. So I think the lesson here is, if you've written a book in a certain genre, move to the city where someone really famous also lives and writes, and bump into them in a coffee shop. Make sure your books, get your book in their hands, get them to read it and share their agent with you. Right?
But hey, it worked for me.
Yeah.
But the lesson I took away from that actually is that,
Yeah.
yes, I self-published, but I did everything right in that,
Mm.
I mean, obviously I wrote the best book that I could, but I
Yeah.
got a professional editor to,
Yeah.
to make sure that it was as good as it could be. I got a professional cover designer to give it a great cover. I worked hard to get it into stores. I submitted it for awards, and all of these things came together
Yeah.
to make the book available in a way that the right person picked it up at the right time. Uh,
Yeah.
you might say it's luck, but there's an awful lot of work that went behind making that luck happen.
Yeah. And I want to say that you had a mentor. You had a
Yeah,
mentor. You had
I
somebody
did.
important who, knew what they were doing that helped you. So yes, I want to get into blogging, but I just want to read, if you're out there and you're interested in military sci-fi and fantasy, here's a review from Amazon. Fast-paced science fiction action and strong attention to character development creates a compelling drama that draws you in convincingly. The author blends his in-depth military experience with a credible mind-expanding sense of technology, and future world possibility. I just thought that was a great, great review. So I wanted to throw that out there. All right, can we move on? Can we talk about blogging? Because
Yeah.
this is how we met. And I know that there are some blog authors out there who blog and are looking for new ideas, or who are not blogging or don't have an author platform that's powerful enough. And they're just, how do I build up without, and find the time to build up, right? And still have a life. So you have two blogs, one for Cascadia Author Services and one as an author. And they're very, very different, I'd imagine. You have different types of things that you're publishing on each. How often do you publish in general?
Well, when I first started the blogs, the pace was 3 articles a week.
Yeah,
After about 6 months, I eased it back to 2 articles a week. But still, 2 articles a week
yeah,
is sort of a good steady state to keep going. Um,
absolutely. No, I'm glad you say that, because people said, do I have to blog every day? Do I have to, it's like, no, you figure out what you can do.
yeah.
And yeah, so tell me about, in general, what are some of the benefits that you have found being a avid and consistent blogger as an author? What are some of the benefits you've had?
Well, the thing about blogging is that you know you have to set out with a goal, and for me, it was to share information. I've
Mm,
been in the industry for a long time now. Both as an author, but also, like you mentioned, I was a publisher, so I've been on the other side of the industry too.
yeah,
And I know a lot of stuff about this industry that most authors don't know, and I'd love to share it with them because I wish I'd known a tenth of what I know now. So if I can share
right.
that, I want to get it out. So with the Cascadia blog, I set out with the mission of I want to inform. I want to give people good content,
Yeah.
and uh, even then, though, you have to narrow it down. Now, I'm actually a fiction author, but
Hmm.
Cascadia, a long time ago, sort of set its sort of marketing design towards nonfiction authors because
Right.
just self-publishing, which is what Cascadia primarily supports, is really well suited to nonfiction authors. If you
Hmm.
are a subject matter expert, like you're a financial advisor or you're a medical expert, or something where you really have powerful information you want to share with people, self-publishing your book can be much more effective than traditional publishing. So
Right.
we wanted to get the information to these folks, and so I have a member of my team at Cascadia named Marcelo. He's a genius, and this is what he does. This is where he lives, and we developed a strategy where we looked at, okay, what are the questions that nonfiction authors are asking about books? Like, if you go into Google, what are the most common questions and so on? So we did a lot of research to figure out not just what is good information to share, but what is good information that people are actually looking for.
Yeah.
And that's one of the big mistakes people can make with blogging, is that they just write about whatever they want to write about. And I mean, that's great because you as the author, you have to be able to motivate yourself to write. So you need to write about what interests you.
Yeah.
But if you're writing about things that nobody's looking for, then you're not going to get a big audience. But if you
Right.
go and find out, okay, this is what people are asking. These are the big questions. Can I answer that question? Yeah, I think I can. Okay,
Yeah.
let's answer those questions. So that was the genesis of it.
Yeah.
And if any author out there who wants to write a blog, think of it the same way. If you are a subject matter expert in something and you want to share your knowledge with someone, or with everyone,
Yeah.
then you have to do that research first and go, okay, what is it that people are actually looking for? Can I answer those questions? Yes, I can. Good. Here we go. And that's where you get started.
Yeah. No, that's great. In fact, just yesterday I was on answerthepublic.com. Is it .com, I think? That you can put a subject, and I'll put this in the description for people. You can put a subject you just put a subject in and hit go, and it will explore, all the questions people are asking on the internet, and like build them up for you. And so you can go through all the questions and say, okay, what questions are people asking? I actually did that yesterday, and I'm sure there are other tools as well to figure out, what are people, what are people asking, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. And so as a author who wants to get a blog, if you can do that, then what you will do is over time, you will build a reputation as a subject matter expert who
Yeah,
people like to come to because if your writing is good, your writing is clear, and people read the article and go, wow, that I really got a lot out of that article. I'm going to
yeah,
come back. I like this guy or this girl, right?
yeah.
And so you can build your reputation and you can also
Hmm.
reach a bigger audience as people start to share your articles and they come back and Google starts to notice you because you're getting all this traffic. And
Yeah,
if you are looking to publish a book, then doing the blog beforehand, and building that reputation and that audience can make selling the book really easy. If
yeah,
anyone out there who's actually tried to self-publish a book with
yeah,
no prep time, yeah, it's pretty
yeah,
hard because nobody knows who you are. But
yeah.
if you've already spent the time to build that audience and engage them, and they already know you and like you and trust you, selling the book is easy because now you just say, "Hey, guess what, guys?
Mm,
I've got this book coming out," and they already like you,
there it
so they're
is.
all going to
Yes.
buy the book. Yeah,
Yeah. So what I'm hearing is, you help build a reputation, you help build authority, you build an audience, you have a lot of content that you can refer back to, that people can refer back to. And content is really good. Google loves content, for example. So if people are searching for stuff on Google, if you're figuring out what people are asking on Google and you start answering those questions, when people start asking that on Google, then your articles are more likely to come up.
that's right.
People are reading your stuff, and then at the end you can link them to buying your book or another blog post, or send them to wherever you want to send them later, right?
That's right. Yeah, and certainly for a
Yeah,
nonfiction author, if you're also looking at perhaps speaking engagements or going to conventions, that sort of thing, this this builds your reputation, your prestige. If you can say, "Look, I have 5,000 subscribers, who follow my weekly blog,"
yeah,
it can get a lot easier to open other doors for you as well,
nice.
which can support the whole business that
Yeah.
you're in.
Yeah, no, really good point. So if you are consistent at building up your audience when journalists are looking for people to talk to, and also just cross promotion, right? You have another author who's an audience of 5,000. You have 5,000. It's like, oh, that makes sense. We can cross promote. So there are lots
Absolutely.
of avenues that you can then use that for as
Yeah.
well. Go ahead.
Yeah, the key is consistency, though.
Mm,
You have to
mm,
blog regularly. Now,
right.
maybe twice a week is too much for some people, especially if you have a busy day job and a family and so on. At
Right.
least once a week, though, you've got to get
Right.
something out there. Not only is it because if you have, fans who are waiting for your next blog, there's
Yeah.
also Google. Google notices how often you post, and if you are
Mm,
irregular, Google won't
yeah.
rank you as high. Um,
Right.
and I tell everyone who wants to take on blogging, it's going to take about 6 months for Google to
Mm,
really take you seriously because Google knows
right.
that a lot of people start blogging with all kinds of energy, but after
Yep.
about 3 or 4 months, they're kind of tired, they're not seeing any results, and they give up. And
Yep.
so Google kind of doesn't take you seriously for your first 6 months. But after six
Right.
months, and I saw it with my own blogs, I see it with our clients' blogs, your traffic is going this, and all of a sudden 6 months it starts to go like that. Because all
Yeah.
of a sudden Google's, oh, this guy's serious. Okay, let's
Yes.
start bumping up his pages in the search rankings.
Yeah.
So it takes a little bit of time. I liken it
Yeah.
to a freight train. It's very hard to get moving, but
Right.
once it is going and up to speed, it is
Yeah.
almost impossible to stop.
Yeah. It's hard to stop. No. Good point. And so I'd like to talk about how to start a blog, but if we can kind of give it context of, let's say we have some nonfiction authors listening, and they have written a book, and they have a job or they run a business, and they have a dog and a cat and a kid and a house, and would like to take vacations sometimes and don't enjoy writing blogs at 2 a.m. So what is your advice to them to how do you streamline this process so that you can get out even just one blog a week of 500 words when you're already busy writing and doing all this stuff?
Yep, for sure. A couple of things I'd say, three actually.
Hmm.
First of all, do your research beforehand to find out what people are looking for, because that will give you a whole bunch of subjects that you
Right.
are already comfortable with, because you're already the
Hmm.
expert in this field. And once you know, okay, I need to write on this subject, and I know that 80,000 people a month look for this topic, that's highly motivational to you to actually write
Right.
it. Okay, so I got my topic already. That's good. The second is to try to build it into your routine. It's just like with
Mm.
exercise. You've got to make the time for it. If you don't naturally
Yeah.
like to do it, you can't just
Right.
sort of do it when you feel like it. You have to build it into your schedule. So, and it works for different people. I often write first thing in the morning because I feel like I'm
Mm.
fresh, it's quiet. That's my good time. Other people I know write in the evening. They've done all the
Hmm.
things they need to do for the day. Now they've got their time. Some people will squeeze it in right after work, like before they leave the office, when they're technically off the clock, but they can still sit at their desk. They can write their article. You have to find the time, but that's the second point: is you really have to make the time to do
Right.
your writing. And the third point is write a bunch of blogs in advance, because you're right. Sometimes life comes along, and I'm
Yeah.
on vacation this week. I don't want to write a blog this week. So try to have a good 4 to 6 weeks worth of blogs in the bank, and you
Yes.
keep writing, but you're actually not publishing that blog for 6 weeks. But that means that if you're going on vacation, or you just have a really busy week and you can't write this week,
Yep.
no problem, because you've already got one scheduled to go out that week, and you can make it up later on. Sometime when you've got lots of time, you can get an extra blog done that week and get back on track. But those
Yeah.
three things I think are really the way to make it work.
Yeah. No, that's a really good point. And I find in my writing, if I'm talking about a specific topic, let's just say blogging, and let's say we're gonna blog about blogging. You start asking, like, what do people ask about blogging? And you find there are 20 questions that people ask about blogging, and all of a sudden you could have 20 uh, articles or blogs about blogging. And
Yep.
then what you can do is just say, like, let me write everything I know about blogging out and then arrange it in these topics. And now I actually have 10 blogs
Yep.
that I can put aside and schedule, and they'll be out for the next 10 weeks. I know that that's how I write. So if I did, for example, I just did a series on storytelling videos,
Mhm.
and I just brainstormed a whole bunch of stuff about storytelling. And then I did a whole series of videos on storytelling, and I had they're in the bag now, and that's done. So I tend to be a binge writer, binge researcher.
Yep.
So I think that's just another way. But you're right. If you can consistently every Wednesday at 8 a.m., I'm going to write my blog for that week, and then it's going out on Friday. And then if I have holidays coming up, then I'll do two a week for a few weeks, and then I'll take my holidays. Because we all need holidays, right?
Absolutely, absolutely,
Yeah.
yeah. And I mean, like, binging is great. Some people, their schedules totally work for that.
Yeah.
Others, you've just got to sort of consistently grind and just find that
Yeah.
time every week. Like, for example, the article that I was working on this morning, it's going to be published in the second week of September.
Yeah.
I will probably have forgotten about it, frankly, by the time I get there, until it gets posted. Oh yeah, I wrote that. That's so cool. You know.
Yes.
So it's just a matter of, if you can't binge it, then just churn it.
Yeah.
Just grind away.
Absolutely. No, that makes sense. Now, where would you look? Like, so if I'm a nonfiction author and I'm like, well, yeah, I want to start a blog, and my topic is, theme parks. How do I figure out what people are asking about theme parks? Do you have any ideas on how I might start that process?
Well, there's a couple of basic ways to do it. If you just Google the topic that you're interested in,
Hmm.
obviously the top articles will pop up, and you
Yeah.
can you can look at them and just try and get an
Yeah.
idea. What are they talking about? That'll give you an indication.
Yeah.
Also, you'll notice sometimes other questions will pop up in the Google list.
Yeah.
If you keep clicking on that, it will
Yeah.
keep showing you more questions, and you can just cut and paste those into the Google search and see what you find. So
Yeah.
that's a really simple way just to get a good idea of
Yeah.
what is out there and what questions are being asked.
Yeah.
There are tools, specialized tools out there that can dive much deeper. Specialized programs that you pay monthly fees for, and then you
Right.
can really start to dig in to uh, to the top websites of your topic and find
Yeah.
out what are the searches that are leading people to those websites and how many people a month look for them, and
Yeah.
how many other articles are there about this topic. Like, you know,
Yeah.
I could write an article on how to self-publish, but by golly, there are a lot of articles out there by some
Yeah.
pretty big websites, and so it would be hard for me to compete with such an obvious question.
Yeah.
So we found with the Cascadia blog, it was disclaimers. I remember was a big one. Legal disclaimers. You know, when you put it at the
Hmm.
front of your book, particularly for
Yes.
nonfiction authors, that was a huge topic, and almost no
Yeah.
one was writing about it. So we thought, okay, well, there's
Mm.
one that we can just go in, and it is one of our most visited articles. Is the article on disclaimers, and
Interesting.
yeah, and who knew,
Yeah.
right? That would not have
Yeah.
occurred to me, but because we did our research and started looking at what is out there, we were
Yeah.
able to find these topics.
Yeah. And so you have a genius on staff who does search engine optimization research for you, is what you're saying.
I do,
Yes.
yes.
Yeah, that's awesome. We all need a genius who can do our search engine optimization, because it's true. If you can find a topic that not a lot of people are talking about, but people are looking up, even if it's just 1,000 people are looking it up, that's 1,000 people who aren't getting the information they want anywhere else.
That's right.
And so you can bring 1,000 people to your website.
Yeah.
And if they see that particular article and they like it and they trust you, they will look for other articles. They'll read more, then they'll recommend things out. Next time somebody asks them about disclaimers, they'll go, oh, there's this guy writing about it. Go
That's right.
check out his blog, and you have more people. So no,
That's
that
right.
makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
Now, would you recommend people when they're writing a book, blog? So, I'm writing about this topic, and I'm, kind of I'm not going to say put their book out on the blog, but put like parts of their book out, put ideas for their book out, get feedback on their ideas. Would you recommend a nonfiction author do that?
Yeah, that's a really interesting question.
Mm-hmm.
Yes and no, I guess is the answer.
Yeah.
But
No. Okay.
in one sense, yes, because
Yeah.
if you're sort of building your audience and you know what the answer is to this question, but you're not sure
Mm-hmm.
how well the public is going to accept your answer, you can
Mm-hmm.
sort of test a little bit with blogs and get the
Yeah.
feedback and get the articles, the ideas back, and you can figure out, okay, this is a tricky concept. I obviously
Mm.
didn't explain it well here because of the feedback I'm getting, so maybe I'll look at a different way to explain it, and maybe this is a better way to approach it. So you can get feedback. You can also get more questions coming to you, which can inspire you to, okay,
Yeah.
maybe I should actually discuss this point because I didn't know that was important.
Yeah.
Um, Authors do worry that they're going to give away too much. Like they don't want
Mm-hmm.
to take chunks of their book and put it into a blog. And you're right,
Yeah.
you don't do that. Um, and just remember, if you're worried about that, remember that a book is structured and written very differently from blog articles. A
Mm-hmm.
blog article needs to be self-contained, completely self-contained, and usually on just one thing. Whereas a chapter in a book can be much longer and can weave multiple ideas together as you
Yeah.
build to a more complex argument. So
Yeah.
you are in a blog, you're sort of presenting a few of the building blocks. Um, but you're not necessarily giving away your secret. Like if you are an expert and
Mm-hmm.
you sort of have this really clever way to accomplish something, you don't need to give away your secret in the blog. But what you can do is give people genuine, honest, helpful information, which is a supporting piece of your big idea. And by
Mm.
doing that, people will go, wow, this guy's telling me the truth. This guy's telling me useful information. What else does he have to say? And you can even have your articles eventually start leading towards that big question. You don't answer them, but
Mm-hmm.
you can lead them. And then people want to
Yeah.
read the book because now they want to get the big answer,
Yeah.
which is hidden in the book, and they have to buy it to get it.
Right. So yeah, so on your blog, never give out the big answer, but give useful information that can lead up to that,
That's
for
right.
example.
Yeah.
So I'm going to ask you this question in reverse now. So now I'm a nonfiction author. I've published a book, and I'm like, Bennett, I have all this information. How do I put pieces of this in the blog? Like, how does my book relate to the blog now? How do I use my blog specifically to get ideas about the book out and to sell the book?
I think in that case, you will want to go back to the basics of blog research and
Mm-hmm.
and find out what people are asking, because the blog is almost like a teaser in that sense.
Mm-hmm.
The book may have amazing information in it, but people don't even know that's what they need yet. So if you were to start just giving away content from the book, people may not even realize how it all ties together and why they want it. So in
Right.
that sense, I would kind of just put the book over here and do the blog on its own. Let it develop a life of its own. You will draw naturally from the book just with your
Mhm.
knowledge, and
Yes.
they will reflect each other, and they will be consistent with each other. But I wouldn't necessarily take text from the book and put it into the blog. I don't think that's a good
Right.
idea.
So direct, not direct quotes from the book, but would you take concepts from the book and kind of write a teaser blog about it so people would want to read the book?
Yeah, I think what I would do is I would take, because every time you're starting to introduce a concept in your book, you will probably open with either asking some questions or
Yeah.
presenting a scenario. And okay, here's the situation. How do we solve this? What you can do in your blog is outline that situation. And does
Mm,
this situation sound familiar to you? Is
yeah.
this something that you grapple with? And
Mm,
you can start to point people so that they now are asking the exact questions you want them to ask,
yep.
which they will find the answers for in your book.
Yeah, awesome, awesome. I just want to remind viewers that if you have questions for Bennett, please go ahead and drop them in the comments, or if you just have comments, drop them in the comments and we will address any questions you have about blogging. Or, I mean, Bennett runs Cascadia Author Services and has been in traditional publishing, so you don't need to limit your questions to blogging. But so if you do have questions, please drop them in the comments. So you wouldn't go from the blog to the book writing, you wouldn't blog your book, in other words,
Correct.
but you would blog ideas toward your book, and then you take your book and you take ideas out of it. It sounds to me like what you're saying is the book is the solution, set up the problem in the blog.
Yeah, definitely. If you can do that, that is a fantastic way to get the two of them to work
Okay.
together. Now, it may
Okay.
be that you can't do that. Maybe your book is on a subject that doesn't lend itself well to that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, for example, if I can, I'll access or I'll reference my fiction blog that's on
Mm-hmm.
my website.
Yeah.
Like I write military sci-fi. So, I mean, I could write blogs about military sci-fi, but
Mm-hmm.
I discovered in my early research, there's very little people actually looking for that. Like it was very small numbers. Honestly, not worth
Right.
my time to blog on that.
Right.
But then I looked elsewhere. Okay, well, I write science fiction, so what else is out there? And, surprise, surprise, I found Star Wars. And I thought, well,
Yes.
lots of people are interested in Star Wars. And while I'm not writing Star Wars, I'm a huge fan of it. And my writing is science fiction. Most Star Wars fans love science fiction. So
Yeah.
there's a link there. And so if anyone goes to my blog at bennettrcoles.com, you will find that it is all Star Wars. That's what I'm writing about right
Awesome.
now. And I'm using all
Awesome.
the things that I learned to do at Cascadia for nonfiction. I'm
Yes.
applying it now to write about Star Wars. And
Yeah.
if you're a big Star Wars geek, you will absolutely love the blog. If
Yeah.
you're not, well, you might still find it interesting. I don't know. But
Yeah.
what I did there is I said, okay, I can't write about my own books because, well, I don't want to do that. And I can't write about the topics in my books because there just isn't a big enough audience. So I
Right.
looked and found something that is similar to my books and has a
Yeah.
huge audience. And that way I can just draw people in. They'll like my writing about Star Wars.
Yeah.
So hopefully they'll go, wow, who is this guy? He's funny. What are his books? Oh, cool.
Yeah.
I'll check them out. Right.
Yeah.
And sort of build the audience that way. So
That- yeah.
yeah, if you
That's
can't feed directly, do something that's close.
Yeah, that is really, really good advice. That's like really, really good advice. I just want to side comment that I think there are lots of people in your generation who watched Star Wars and then launched a career in technology or sci-fi or something, because I actually think Star Wars inspired a lot of people to take a different direction in thinking. So I happen to know at least one or two of them outside of you. So I just thought I'd point that out. Okay, I have a question. Lynette Harwood says, I do not have a web page. Where should I blog? So if you don't have a website set up, would you say set up a website, or is there another avenue you might suggest for Lynette?
Yeah, thanks, Renette. Great question. My immediate answer is I recommend that you get a website. You can
Mm,
get them really cheap or even free. There are lots of website providers out there. It can be really simple. But the reason why I recommend you have a website is because you own that website, you own that little piece of property on the internet. Other alternatives, you could use a social media like Facebook or Tumblr or Medium, where you can post essays. The problem with those is that you don't control them. And if ever, for whatever reason, you come across a situation where you have disobeyed one of their hidden orders, they can shut you down. You can lose your Facebook account, you can lose your Tumblr account or your Medium account. You don't control it. You might use those social medias to direct people to your blog, which is on your website. But I always recommend having a website just because you control it, you control the message, and no one can take it away from you. Um, and if you don't know how to set one up, there are lots of folks who can help you, and you can do it for free. Uh, um, I'm drawing a blank right now for companies that do it, but there are lots of companies that can help you set one up for either no cost or very low cost.
Hmm. Yeah, it's not expensive to set up a blog. And a blog, you can have a blog instead of a website, in the sense of a blog is a website. You would want to, and tell me if you disagree, but you'd want your homepage to be a static page. So you could have a blog that has a static homepage,
Yep.
and then the rest of it is blog. So if you don't have a website, and you want kind of a fast, quick, easy, and if you want free, you can create a blog with a static homepage, and that can be your homepage part.
Absolutely. It does not have to be
Right,
complex at all. Very
right.
simple. Yep.
Yeah, exactly. But one thing I am going to say is, and what I see um, authors missing on their blogs or on their website sometimes, is the buy now button. So
Oh, yeah.
no matter what you have, whether it's a website or a blog or whatnot, don't forget that, the buy now button. It's
That's
really
right.
important. Okay,
And
Bobby. Oh, go
yep.
ahead.
I was just going to add that if you don't actually have anything to sell yet, then still have some kind of call to action to your folks, maybe
Yeah.
to subscribe or to follow you, anything like that.
Yeah.
Give them something to interact with you.
Nice addition, Bennett. Thank you. And also, Bobby Renfro is asking, what are the most important pages to put on your website for nonfiction? What if you don't have a picture of your book to put on your site?
Thanks, Bobby. Nice to get a question from you. Bobby's one of my authors.
Oh,
Um,
awesome.
um, the the images that you want to put up are good subject matter images that deal with the topics that you're covering. If you were writing about, let's say you were writing about something medical, well, you could have sort of standard hospital images or people recovering nicely images. um, if there's sort of a feeling that you want to evoke in your writing, then you can find images online, and again, often for free, that you can download and you can put them up on your website. You definitely want to have images because people respond really well to that, and the internet is a very visual medium. So yeah, if you don't have pictures of the book, in fact, honestly, a picture of the book, that's one picture. That's the only one you've got. You're gonna need other images. If you check out either of our blogs, either at Cascadia or at Bennett R, you'll see every article has photos embedded into it, just to sort of give a feel for what we're talking about in that article.
Yeah, thank you. And I've just written myself a note in the description. After this, I will go and put a couple of places where you can get images that you can use, that photographers have said, go ahead and use it. They have, there's so many levels of copyright. And so I'll post some that have the lowest level of copyright. In other words, you're allowed to use them commercially. So, and Wynette did say, thanks. Just so you know, Wynette appreciated your answer, and she's gave us a quick thanks. And then I have from Lise. Oh, Bobby also says, sounds great. Thank you. Lise says, do you recommend Instagram for authors to use in addition to a basic website blog, or what others? Thanks, Lise.
I do definitely recommend that you use social media to help get the word out. Social media is a great way for you to connect with your audience. Whether you use Instagram or not really depends on you and what kind of social media you like. If you're a big image heavy person, or if your subject that you're writing about is really lends itself well to imagery, Instagram is fantastic for that. Also think about where your audience is. If you're writing to an audience of a certain generation, then Facebook is where you want to be because that's where they are.
Yeah.
Um, or you may want to think about Tumblr or Medium because you can write much longer articles there. So Instagram is great. It really is because you can get a lot of followers. They're very active. I find Instagram is really good for building engagement and community, as long as you have great images to share.
Yeah. Yeah. And Lise is an author, and I know she also illustrates. And
Oh
so,
yeah,
I mean, yeah, I think she has
perfect.
some, yeah. Lise, I think you have some fabulous images. You consider, I mean, I'm not saying do Instagram, but because I know you have images, consider Instagram, look into it further, and it's probably a good place for you to be.
Hmm.
Yeah. Excellent. All right. Thank you, Lise. All right. I have another question. So in 10 years and 11 years, oh, Lise says, thank you so much, Bennett. Um, in 11 years, you have written 7 books,
Yeah.
and you have been publishing consistently for 2 blogs twice or 3 times a week. Where do you find time to do anything else? I mean, give us a little bit about your writing system. How do you get all of this done?
Yeah. Yeah, well, certainly over the last 11 years, it has evolved. When I was first writing seriously, I was still working for a company. I had a regular job. I actually was traveling overseas a lot. I was in international business development, and so I would kind of write whenever I had time. I would sort of squeeze it in wherever I could, and I discovered actually the plane was the best place to write because nobody could get a
Mm,
hold of me on the plane. And I realize
yeah.
that's changing even now, but back then, as soon as I went through that gate, no cell
Yeah.
phone, no email,
Yeah.
and the Vancouver to Hong Kong flight is 13 hours long. I got to know it well, and I wrote a lot of my second book at 36,000 feet between those two cities. So that's how I did it then. When
Yeah.
I would grab time where I could. But even then, I learned after a while, even in that crazy lifestyle that I had consistent chunks of time that would come. I wouldn't know when they were coming, but they would come, and I would focus my
Mhm.
writing then. Um,
Interesting.
Nowadays, I don't travel anymore. Well, none of us do, but um,
Yeah.
um, but I certainly don't travel like I used to. And so I have developed the routine of first thing in the morning. Before I look at emails, before I start any of the projects I have to do that day, I try to do my writing first.
Mm,
And I just have to trust that if there is a crisis, somebody will call me.
right.
Otherwise, the work can wait an hour. Like
Yeah.
I don't need to start answering emails at 7 in the morning, right? I can
Mm,
get up, have breakfast, have my coffee, sit down and write for an hour or two, um, and get that done first. And by
yeah.
making it come first means it gets done. And I also know that I'm best in the morning. Not everybody is. Some people they're not awake till 10.
Yeah.
So maybe that wouldn't work. Maybe the evening is your time. But that's what I've had to do is just like I said a while ago, make the time, build it into the schedule, and just be ruthless about it and say, this is my time for writing, and everything
Yeah.
else can wait. My
Yeah.
my family
Mm,
respects that, and they generally leave me alone.
yeah.
And work will get dealt with at 9. Which
Yeah.
is perfectly reasonable. It's not like I'm writing until noon every day.
Yes.
You know,
Yeah.
but I do that, and I find
Yeah.
it's consistency. If I can do that, then it works really well.
Yeah. And something I like to remind authors, because when they ask, how do I find time to write? It's like, look, if you wrote 1,000 words a day, that's a lot, but let's just imagine that's 365,000 words a year. Just
Yeah,
pointing that out.
yeah,
So let's say you only did that, 3 days a week. That's still a lot of words. I mean, how many words in War and Peace, right? So you
yeah.
can actually get a lot written in 1 year if you just do a tiny little bit a day, if that's what you do. Or you can be me and you can binge write. I'm a binger, so
And that
yeah,
works too. And we all find our way.
yeah,
I've been working with an author for over a year now, and that's his goal is 1,000 words a day.
yeah,
And we check in and we sort of hold each other accountable.
Yep.
And we're obviously at very different places in our writing, but I
Yeah.
appreciate being held accountable too. Because oh man, I said I was going to have those 3 articles written. Oh, they're not written yet, so
Yeah.
I got to get going because I got to tell him that I did it.
Yeah.
And
Gotta get to it.
we both recognize that sometimes life happens and
Yeah.
sometimes we don't hit our goal for the week, but that's okay. Shake it off, try again
Yeah.
next week, and
Yeah.
most of the time we succeed. And
Yeah.
that's his goal, is 1,000 words a week. And just about 3 weeks ago, he finished his novel,
Yeah.
and he honestly thought he was never going to finish it, but
Yeah.
just relentlessly just keep
Yeah.
plugging away at it, and
Yeah.
it worked.
Yeah. And 1,000 words a week is 52,000 words a year. That's a lot of words. That's a book. So
Yeah.
I just want to say that, people are like, where do I find time to write? Sometimes people think of a book as this huge monumental task. And I'm not saying it isn't,
Yeah.
but when you break it down into 1,000 words a week, you can write a book in a year, right? If
Mhm.
you do 1,000 words a day, you could write a book in 3 months, right? That's,
And
that's
I'll add to that, as
really
for
possible.
people who are
Yes.
just getting started, you maybe think, "Oh man, this is such a big deal, and what I'm writing is just crap." Um, Having just started a new book myself just a couple
Yeah.
of weeks ago, I know full well that what I'm writing right now is not my best work because it's
Yeah.
a new story, new
Yeah.
ship, new
Yeah.
characters. They haven't come alive to me yet, and I'm just kind of
Yeah.
exploring as I write. I
Yes.
fully expect everything that I've written in the last 3 weeks to get tossed, but this is part of the process, is that I need to sort of warm up to this new story and this new setting I've got. And that's part of the process.
Yeah.
Don't expect to write the finished draft first.
Yeah.
The first draft is just that. You can always go back and fix it or toss it, but you will learn something and you will write the second draft much better. So, yeah, don't feel intimidated by that.
Thank you for saying that, because one of the top things I say to authors is write garbage, just write garbage. And they're like,
Yep.
no, it has to be perfect. They're editing as they go. And I'm like, the most prolific writers I've ever worked with are the ones who are not afraid to write garbage. They just throw stuff down on the page. They get better as they go. They know the story better as they go. They know the characters better as they go.
Yep.
And they land up throwing lots of stuff out. But in the garbage dump, as they're mining and they're throwing away all the stuff that there are gems, there's diamonds in there, and they find them, they keep them. So thank you for saying that. So earlier you were talking about work starting at 9 o'clock, and I really want to ask you a little bit more about Cascadia Author Services, because it's not just you have a whole team of people, all different areas of specialty. You've got a genius who can help people with their SEO and figuring out what to blog about, for example. Tell us a little bit more about the genius on the team you have.
Yeah, you bet. Well, thanks. Certainly, yeah, there is Marcelo who does the blogging, the SEO, and all that. He's just
Yeah.
a absolute wizard. I have my chief editor, Michelle. She has a degree in publishing, and she actually started as an intern at the publishing company that I was running 7 years ago.
Right.
And she was so awesome. I thought, well, I'm not letting you go. So
Yeah.
I've continued to work with Michelle for years. And when we
Awesome.
started Cascadia, she was my first pick. So she's our chief editor. Um, and I have a small team of other editors who are specialists.
Mhm.
We have one gentleman who focuses on copy editing or proofreading.
Mhm.
Like, that is his thing. He
Yeah.
is so detail oriented, and as my authors say, he knows everything about everything. Like he can do fact checks. He can. Oh, it's amazing.
Yeah.
Um, I have a collection of designers as well who we use all the time, and we're scattered all over North America. It's neat. I mean, we don't all live here in Victoria, and we don't even have a regular office that we all meet in. We we because of technology these days, we can be scattered everywhere, and we talk on email or Zoom and phone, occasionally phone if we have to, and we work really well, and everything just gets processed through. And so, what I've been able to do is sort of find the best designers. They're almost always people that I worked with in the traditional industry. And if
Mm.
I didn't, it's someone I know and trust did. And so they come to me by referral and we work together. So we have a team at Cascadia who have been together for quite a long time, and everybody comes with years of experience in both traditional and self-publishing before they even came to us. So yeah, so there's the different kinds of editing. There's design, cover design, typeset, ebooks, website. I have a website specialist as well. And then marketing, which is a big topic. And honestly, for the first few years Cascadia was in business, we didn't offer marketing services
Mm.
because I did not want to offer something that I couldn't guarantee was gonna do well for the author. Because
Right.
marketing, I mean, I start to get tired when I think about marketing. Like, it's some of us just are not suited to it, and a lot of authors just hate marketing.
Yeah.
And there are,
Mhm.
frankly, a lot of charlatans out there who will promise you the world for
Yeah.
$10,000. And I waited until I was able to get a hold of, again, someone I'd worked with in the industry. She was freelance now and able to join the team. And we worked really carefully on what is it we're going to offer here. And our approach to marketing is basically we don't sell marketing packages. We we talk to the author and figure out, okay, you are unique, your book is unique, our target audience is unique. What can you and what can't you do, and how can we
Mm.
help you? And
Nice.
mostly it's coaching and teaching the
Yeah.
author how to do things so that eventually they can do it on their own and they
Yeah.
don't need us anymore. Some authors just frankly don't want to do it or don't have the time,
Mhm.
and so we
Mhm.
certainly can do the work for them. Absolutely we can. um,
Yeah.
but our goal usually is to empower the author to do the
Yeah.
marketing on their own, to demystify it, to show them it's actually not as
Yeah.
scary or as tiring as you think. And if we can teach you best practices and teach you how the system works, you can maximize your effort. So
Awesome.
over the years at Cascadia, we've pretty much built the full gamut of anything an author would need, both for self-publishing, which is what most of our authors are, but
Yeah.
also traditional publishing. You know, like
Mhm.
if you want to write a book and submit it to a traditional publisher, we can help you with editing to get it ready. We can help you with a query letter, with a synopsis. We can give you advice on how to approach agents. We can even,
Yeah.
if you get a response, what do I do with this response? We can be there to help you and just sort of coach you along.
Yeah.
Um, so certainly traditional authors are welcome at Cascadia as well. And also there's marketing at the end too, because traditional authors often think they're not going to have to do any marketing because the publisher will do it for them. Well,
Yeah.
take it from me, you
Yeah.
have to do your own marketing too.
Yeah.
You know, yeah, in a
Yeah.
traditional publishing world, you are the publisher's priority for about 6 weeks, six
Yeah.
weeks up to launch. As soon as your
Yeah.
book launches, no, you're done because next month's books have to be
Yeah.
marketed. So you are going to have to do it in the long game yourself.
Yeah. Excellent. So if you're interested, CascadiaAuthorServices.com. Would the email be info at
That's the easiest
CascadiaAuthorServices.com?
way. That
Okay.
will come to us, and we'll direct you to the right person then,
Awesome.
based on what your question is. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you, Bennett. I really appreciate you being with us today. And thank you, everyone, for joining us and asking those awesome questions. If you have follow-up questions, I'm sure you can email info at CascadiaAuthorServices.com, and Bennett or someone on the team will help you out with those questions. I know I just made an offer for you, Bennett. Sorry.
It's all good. Absolutely.
You seem like the kind of person who'd be happy to receive an email from an author and help them out. And so many people are saying thanks. Lisa said thanks to you both. Bobby, I just want to point out, has said Michelle is the best, just in case anyone's wondering. Michelle is the best.
Michelle is the best.
She is the best. And if you would like more of the same, please join Author Nation. We are going to do this every Thursday from now on. We're going to sit down with somebody who is really knowledgeable and a lot of fun. So if you're interested, join me next Thursday for another one. And thanks, Bennett. I really appreciate you coming by today and giving us all this really valuable information. Have a great day.
Thanks very much. You
Okay,
too.
bye-bye.